right, it's 9 p.m. on the East Coast, 6 p.m. on the West Coast, 7 p.m. in Pena County, Arizona. We have breaking news tonight. There are multiple big breaks in this case, including bombshell new video from the FBI. We'll have more on that in a moment with Kash Patel, the FBI director. Also tonight, major law enforcement activity now underway. 2 armored SWAT vehicles departed a Pima County Sheriff's parking lot, along with a local bomb squad. That was just a few hours ago. And moments ago, the bomb squad did return, according to reports from the ground. This activity is somehow related to the search for Nancy Guthrie. Meanwhile, Harvey Levin, who will join us in less than a minute, he is reporting activity for the very first time on the Bitcoin account linked to the initial ransom demand earlier today. Well, this nightmare finally came to life. They had their first break in the case, a haunting image that will send chills down your spine. The FBI successfully recovered this video from Nancy Guthrie's doorbell camera. It shows a menacing suspect at Nancy Guthrie's front door wearing a ski mask, gloves, backpack, appears to be holstering a gun in the front of his pants. If you take a close look, because the Guthrie family and the FBI are now asking once again the public for any and all help in identifying this person that we will be putting up throughout the hour. Savannah Guthrie posted this on Instagram with the caption, quote, "We believe she is still alive. Bring her home." So again, take a very close look. What do you see in these images? Do you recognize the face there? And what about the clothes? If this person looks familiar to you, possibly familiar, please contact the FBI or the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Again, the FBI Director Kash Patel will join us in a moment. First, joining us now on all of tonight's breaking news, TMZ founder, friend of the program, our friend Harvey Levin is with us. He's done great work here. Okay, you've been following from the initial ransom letter that you received at TMZ. You had been following this Bitcoin account. Okay, we got the first hit of activity about, I saw on your website, about 4:30, 4:35 today, correct?
It was just before 4 o'clock LA time, 7 o'clock Eastern time. There was activity for the first time, Sean, in that Bitcoin account, the link of which is in that first ransom letter that we obtained. We've been checking it every few minutes, and for the first time it surfaced.
It seems like whoever this person is that sent you and TMZ that letter had been very careful up to this point. Now, KGUN Channel 9 out in Tucson is also confirming the activity in the account. They say the activity is less than $300. Can you confirm that?
So there are reasons that I have been careful with my words, and it obviously has to do with sourcing, and I am just not at liberty to talk about amounts right now, Sean. I just, you know, this is a complicated case, and we gave our word on something, and we're going to stick by that.
I totally respect that, and we don't want to do anything that's going to hurt the investigation or this case in any way. Okay, let's look at this development today. I think it's the biggest break, the only break we've really had since this began 10 days ago. When you look at that footage, what do you see? What are you looking at? And when you put it together with things that only you know because you got the original ransom letter, what do you put together?
Well, it's a little bit confusing to me, and I'll explain why. This letter, Sean, is so well constructed. I read it and think this is a really intelligent person who knows how to express a thought. They have thought this out. They are to the point. They cover everything they need to cover. And then you look at this, and there's something bumbling about it, where the person who is shown right there took enough care to completely cover himself, you know, except for seeing a mustache and either a goatee or a beard. And yet he doesn't realize that there's a camera on that door, and that suddenly surprises him enough that he has to go over, stoop down, and grab some brush to try and cover the camera. That doesn't align to me with somebody as methodical as what I believe the person who wrote that note. I will tell you a couple of other things that our sources who are directly involved in this investigation tell us that this was not video that was withheld. The authorities received it today, and they released it almost immediately. We also know that the authorities are working under the operative theory is that whoever did this lives in the Tucson television area. That one of the big reasons authorities believe this is something we've talked about, which is that they sent the ransom letters, both the first and the second, to one or two of the television stations in Tucson, as opposed to sending it, say, to NBC, which is Savannah Guthrie's employer. So they feel there's a connection there. And also in that first ransom letter, it says, we will bring her back to Tucson within 12 hours of receiving payment. That's about a 700-mile radius if you think the car would go 60 miles an hour. But authorities, we're told, and by people involved in this, believe this is somebody in that area around the Tucson television area.
So if the person in that video, and when you put together the video and what we're seeing, the images we're seeing, with the letter that you put eyeballs on, and it doesn't really align with the sophistication of that letter, I've got to imagine it wouldn't align with a theory that it's somebody that knows Nancy Guthrie well, because if they did, they would have known that camera's there, if in fact they really are surprised by the camera, no?
I mean, I think that's a really good point, that if this was somebody who cased Nancy's house, I would think one of the first things they would see is, and look for, is some sort of a camera on that door. So look, I talked to one person involved in this case today, and I raised exactly that point. And the response I get back was, you cannot always use logic and reason in figuring things like this out. And I think that's true, that, you know, and in some ways, you know, you're guilty of overanalyzing sometimes when you expect everybody to make the precise, rational move, and that just isn't always the case. So I can't explain that, Sean. You know, it does speak to somebody who didn't know that door before coming there in the first instance. But again, even if you don't know the door, everybody knows it's common to have those cameras. And if you take the time to completely cover yourself, with the exception of a little bit of a beard and a mustache, then wouldn't you think through, gee, there might be a doorbell there too? And at least when you walk up to the door, you have something in your hand to cover it with, as opposed to being surprised by it and then walking back to the garden area and grabbing some brush.
Harvey, it's obvious you're working very closely with law enforcement and have been from day one. And by the way, I totally admire your help, your cooperation. I'm grateful for it. I think most Americans are as well. And keeping their confidence and not giving out specific details. Last exit question, and you don't really even have to answer it. Are there things that maybe you now know that give you more confidence that we're getting close here to finding this person that you may not be able to talk about publicly?
Yeah, I mean, there is activity, much more activity than there was a couple of days ago. It seemed like authorities were stalled until really today. And a lot is going on. As you said, we are told the same thing, that these SWAT and bomb squad movements relate specifically to the Nancy Guthrie case. Whether they are close to figuring it out, I think that there are things that law enforcement is doing right now that are not surefire things to find the person, but they have a plan, I think.
Okay. Harvey Levin, you had phenomenal coverage. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing everything with our audience. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.